Welcome everyone to this session, Business Not As Usual, the Circular Future of Fashion Retail. And let's just get started. So yes, my name is Claire Carroll. I am a business account manager here at WRAP, and I'll be hosting the session today. And I'm also joined by our three panelists. So firstly, we have Isabella West of Higher Street. Hi, Isabella.
Hello.
We have Bianca Rangecroft from Waring.
Hi, guys.
Hello. And we have Joe Metcalf from Thrift Plus.
Hello.
Joe. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the agenda now for the session. So firstly, I'll be taking everyone through the kind of context around why we need circular business models and looking at the circularity pathway on our Textiles 2030 roadmap. And after that, we will move into the speaker session where we'll hear some of the great work that our speakers are doing to make circular business models mainstream and tap into their kind of knowledge and expertise on this subject. So if you do have any questions in the audience, please do pop them in the Q&A box and we will try and get to them at the end, although we are quite tight on 30 minutes today. So if not, we can follow up by email. So why do we need circular business models within the textiles industry? Well, in the UK, we buy more clothes per person than any other country in Europe, with an estimated £140 million worth of clothing being sent to landfill each year. The average garment is disposed after 10 wears with a lifespan of 2.2 years, and around a third of clothing remains unworn in UK wardrobes. We also know that textile production is resource intensive for water, raw materials and energy, and 60% of a garment's waste footprint comes from the disposal phase. So you can see how our traditional linear kind of take, make, dispose model can't really be sustained with the growth that we're seeing in demand. So how do we address these problems? Well, we need to shift to a circular system where products are made more sustainably, used for as long as possible, and then recycled at the end of their life so that nothing ever becomes waste and it is always seen as a valuable resource. And the most significant opportunity for reducing the environmental impact of clothing lies in increasing the active life of each item. So WRAP research shows that by extending the active life of clothing by 9 months, we could reduce the carbon, water, and waste impacts by up to 10%. And what's really positive is that we're seeing a shift in consumer attitudes towards this. So more people are taking up a sustainable behavior, such as repairing their clothing, buying secondhand, and renting items as well. And these changes in behavior are also shown in the growth of these markets. So I think there's quite a widely cited quote that resale is expected to grow by around 5 times over the next 5 years, and traditional retail is expected to shrink. However, there is huge potential for traditional retailers to implement these new models in a way which complements their current business and form partnerships with other businesses to collaborate and scale those solutions. And in terms of circular business models themselves, there's obviously a whole host of different things that's covered under that umbrella. But, some examples include resale, which I've mentioned, and that can be peer-to-peer resale, business to consumer, charity partnerships. There's also clothing rental, clothing buyback, reward schemes, and clothing subscription. So we'll explore some of these options in more detail later in the session. So the headline targets for Textiles 2030 are firstly to reduce the aggregate greenhouse gas footprint of new products sold on the market by 50%, and also to reduce the water footprint of new products sold by 30%. So as many of you have heard in previous sessions, we've published our Textiles 2030 roadmap this morning, and in there WRAP has modelled some different scenarios to identify what are the priority actions that will be key to achieving the targets. And what we've done is model these scenarios to try and help businesses to identify high impact changes they can make and develop and implement effective strategies. So based on provisional estimates, you can see highlighted there in the blue that we can't reach the necessary footprint reductions without reuse or circular business models. So reuse business models could account for a 7% reduction in carbon and more than a 9% reduction in water footprint. So really, really key. And you might have seen this diagram in one of the earlier sessions as well. So shifting towards circularity will require a whole system change. And in this session, we're really going to focus on the journey that our textiles products make between manufacture and end of life, and how circular business models can ensure that we extend this period for as long as possible. And the industry is, a really big job ahead of it, but it's not something that one brand can do alone. I think we really need that collaborative effort. So One area we can focus on is the retail side of things and how customers will acquire clothing and textiles in the future. So we'll be hearing more from high street and discussing rental as an option and how that compares to traditional retail. There's also the in-use phase. So this isn't something that brands and retailers, I would say, have traditionally considered. You know, what are customers doing when they're using their clothes, you know, outside of maybe a wash care label. So we're going to speak to Wearing today to find out more about what they're doing in this area. And then we also need to think about how items will go on to live, you know, a second or third or fourth life wherever possible. And Thrift Plus can definitely speak to this and how things are changing. So through the development of Textiles 2030, WRAP has kind of collaborated with organizations from across the industry and developed this pathway for businesses to follow to help them implement circular business models. The pathway sets out some clear activities and milestones that our signatories will commit to, and it aims to inspire the industry to take collective action and keep on track to deliver those goals. So as part of this pathway, signatories will initially work to develop circular business pilots, and WRAP will help to measure the savings these generate in terms of carbon and water footprint so that we can see and track positive outcomes. This will then allow for the most viable of those options to be scaled up and mainstreamed by 2030. And we don't anticipate that there's going to be like a one size fits all solution here. So adapting as needed and sharing learnings is going to be really important so that these can be implemented in a way that makes sense for each individual business and their customer base. So yeah, the industry will definitely need to work together and collaborate to achieve these really ambitious plans. And it's important that we bring citizens on the journey, you know, customers with us. And they'll play such a key role if we want to achieve this circular system. And yeah, I'll stop talking after that brief intro, but it's time to move on to our panel session. And we have a very exciting lineup of speakers today. So I think that each of the panelists on this session really represents a different aspect of the circular economy, whether that's offering customers new ways to acquire clothing, helping them use it for longer, and then also to pass it on and extend its life. So yeah, we have a rental platform, a digitized resale solution, and a tech startup focused on wardrobe optimization. And pop into the questions. I'm going to start with you, Isabella, if that's okay.
Of course.
So really simple, could you start off just by telling us a bit more about High Street and how that came about?
Yeah, so High Street is a fashion rental platform. We are just coming up to our 3rd birthday, and we basically launched to provide a sustainable and affordable alternative to fast fashion. So historically, fashion rental has kind of been very much associated with either designer items or kind of formal occasion wear categories. But High Street was really all about providing like a realistic alternative to popping to Zara on your lunch break and getting a £40 dress that you're maybe going to wear once or twice and then never again. So we have since 2018 partnered with amazing brands like Whistles, Ghost, French Connection. I would describe our site as basically a bit of ASOS meets booking.com. So you would go on, you find your favorite outfit, and then instead of adding it to basket to buy it, you have to select the dates that you want it for using our calendar. And then, yeah, so very much for the first 2 years of our kind of journey, we found ourselves to be almost in the right place at the right time. I think there was a massive rise in kind of the want of conscious consumerism. And there's been very little kind of competition also in the market for affordable and sustainable outfits. And so as a result, during that time, we grew rapidly. And that is up until COVID last year, which obviously took a big hit on the occasion wear rental market, but actually has led to a whole new business model, which we can talk about later.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, yeah, I think you guys are definitely kind of leading this in the UK, and it's a really exciting time, I think, to be in rental. So from my perspective, I think renting, as you mentioned, has traditionally been seen as a bit niche and reserved for kind of special occasions like weddings. But obviously WRAP's research has shown that more and more people are looking at rental and looking into it and thinking about it. And as you said as well, we've been in a global pandemic, so there's definitely not been very many occasions for us to be, renting an outfit for. But do you think have you seen that on your side? There's a bit of pent up demand. People really want to try it now, and do you think people will be renting for a whole host of occasions now, not just that wedding special occasion?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I think we're almost, having had the worst year, we're almost in a situation where there are some kind of perfect external factors for rentals. So we've got kind of a 60%, 60% of customers are saying that they're looking for kind of sustainable purchase options. At the same time, we have a 250% forecast rise in the number of events. And then also at the same time, we have a 50% contraction in global gross incomes among certain age groups. So fundamentally, when we think about why people buy fashion in the first place, it's a form of self-expression. It makes you, feel good. It gives you confidence. And, that's been missing for people's lives for over a year now. And I think rental really ticks those boxes because it's got the affordability piece, it's got the sustainability piece, and it's got that whole kind of confident feeling that comes with wearing something like special and unique. So I think there's certainly some great external settings. It's a great kind of setting for rental, but really in terms of, what the consumer wants, we definitely have seen our stock is quite occasion wear focused anyway, just because pre-pandemic, that was where the majority of the demand for rental was. So we have, a stock base that is quite formal. And actually, what we've seen recently in recent weeks is brilliant. Is people kind of renting these formal outfits and really kind of styling them more casually because they are, as you say, looking to embrace sustainable fashion kind of throughout, whether it's just the pub, whether it's a more casual date night. Previously, it might have been like they rented for a wedding or a ball, and they're definitely now looking to kind of rent across the board in terms of the outfits that they might have previously purchased. So it's brilliant to see. I think it's a bit chicken and egg. I think we will increasingly see more and more retailers diversifying their rental offering away from pure occasion wear. So once there's more stock available, I think we'll also see more and more consumer demand to follow in categories like maternity or outerwear, ski wear. There's loads of kind of opportunity in rental that is currently really untapped.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I think you've led me nicely onto my next question, which is around actually Zora, your new kind of venture off the side of High Street. I guess if you could tell us a bit more about Zora and how you think retailers can kind of be profitable through renting items when they're traditionally more comfortable with just selling items.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, when COVID hit, naturally High Street's demand was heavily impacted, and at the same time we saw a lot of our retail partners speaking publicly about the challenges that they were facing. So there was a lot of talk about excess stock and how retailers would approach that. So we started reaching out to our partners and asking if there was ways in which we could support them, ways in which we could work together. And it prompted, I think everyone was being very honest and transparent at the time because, it was also new and people were being incredibly supportive. And actually we had some amazing discussions, but one thing that we kept hearing from our retailers was actually that they were really interested in doing rental themselves. But they fundamentally, they saw it as a very big shift in their current business model, and they weren't quite sure where to start. And they were telling us, we want to do it. We want to own the customer. We want to own the messaging. We would like to have control over the service themselves. But what's stopping us is, that kind of almost, where do we even begin? And so at that point we said, well, we know where to begin. We've just done this. And actually we then spent the last 13 months taking our tech stack and reskinning it for a purpose-built white label platform. And what we do is we offer what we call a fully managed circular service. So we partner with brands who want to do rental, and we do like kind of the hard part for them. So they own the stock still, and they also kind of market the offering to their customer. But behind the scenes, we would run the website, the customer service, we would do the cleaning, the quality checking, kind of basically everything to bring that offer to life for them. So that is basically Zora. It's a fully managed circular service for retailers looking to kind of dip their toe into rental, really.
Yeah, I can definitely see why that would be useful. And it's, yeah, especially for the bigger retailers who, it's quite a big ship to turn around if you've just been selling stuff to then get to renting stuff. It's, yeah, it's definitely a useful service, I think. But I'm gonna have to move on. The session moves so fast. I'm gonna move on to Joe now to make sure we get around everyone. So Joe, moving on to you, we've seen some really impressive statistics in recent years around the growth of resale that I mentioned earlier. And, to me, Thrift Plus feels like a really modern way to resell clothing. And obviously, I mentioned at WRAP, we know that extending the useful life of clothes is the most effective intervention in terms of environmental impact savings. So, how would you describe Thrift Plus, the concept and your mission, really?
Yeah, exactly. So we're at Thrift Plus. We're trying to make it kind of easier to resell than to discard your used clothing, and so the statistics coming out of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is that 73% of our clothing is currently discarded, sent to landfill, or burned. And so actually we recognize that it's really hard to sell your clothes online. And actually the barriers there are taking the photos for 3 hours, but then also kind of choosing the pricing and dealing with the questions and dealing with negotiations and offers from people, and then going to the post office every single time an item sells. So actually, eBay's been around for 20 years or more now, but still that's not what most people are doing with their secondhand clothes. So we fit in there to make it as easy as possible to resell your secondhand clothes. The way that it works is that you head onto our website, you grab, you order a thrift bag, it gets sent to you in the post in the next couple of days, fill it up with your secondhand clothes, send it back to us for free, and then we do all the hard work to sell those clothes online. So we've really focused on the technology and operations to make it as efficient as possible to get, quite, as Isabella was saying, that kind of quite normal, affordable category of clothes online and resold.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you mentioned some of the kind of barriers there to some of the traditional ways to resell your clothing. And I know from the kind of shopping perspective that for consumers who thrift, it can be quite time consuming. You've got to be raking through the rails to find your size, and that can be a barrier. So I think, yeah, digitizing this end of the market really opens up secondhand items to consumers, no matter where you live. And obviously it can benefit charities too. So do you think there's been a shift from your perspective in terms of consumer attitudes to buying pre-loved? And do you think there's more people getting behind this now?
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's been a shift in two ways, or for two reasons. There's been a shift in mindset. So I came from the charity retail world before this, and charity retailers would talk about shoppers with an economic motive, as in they're needing to shop secondhand because it's cheaper, or they're choosing to shop secondhand because it's cheaper. So that's still there, but now we've got a second motive, which is for sustainability reasons. So I think it's the ThredUp data is pretty good here. It's US data, but from 2016, 45% of women have or are open to shopping secondhand, and up to 2019, 2020, that's up to 70% now. And then just the second one is actually people's ability to shop secondhand has changed. So rather than just shopping on a person-to-person marketplace for secondhand clothes, where it's eBay and you're still buying off a stranger, you don't know when it's going to arrive, you don't have any returns policy, you don't have any quality control. There's now people like ThredUp or like Thrift Plus, where you can browse 250,000 items, you can put 8 of them into your basket, and then you get a 30-day returns policy as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, you can see all those like extra benefits, I think, and super easy. I guess my next question is around how this fits in with retailers actually. So resale is obviously traditionally something that, customers have been participating in for a long time, but how can this model kind of generate revenue and loyalty for retailers? And I know you've partnered with Farfetch in the past. Could you maybe just tell us a bit more about that and how it all works?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's really interesting for retailers and brands to understand how to engage in resale. I think the main way of thinking about it is to take kind of take ownership or to engage in your own product from after the point that it's sold. So how long is your customer going to wear that? And then what are they going to do at the end of its life? And actually, do you care then what happens? And you should care what happens to it when they're finished with it. So the way for brands and retailers to engage is to provide a fashion take back scheme, we think, to make it as easy as possible for customers to resell those clothes once they're finished with them. And so that's what we're doing with Farfetch, and also Hush, Fennec, and a few others coming soon. And so we help that retailer and provide the fully managed service to offer a take back scheme to their customers. Their customers then send the clothes back to us. We do all of the operations to resell those clothes. And then once they are resold, some of the money goes to charity. We take our fees for helping provide the service. And then the rest of the credits can then be spent on Thrift Plus, or can be redeemed as a voucher back with that retailer. And that provides that kind of circular loyalty scheme.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I can really see that working. I guess my last question to you before we jump over to Bianca would just be around Textiles 2030. I know that Thrift Plus have signed up, and I just wondered kind of why you think this collaboration piece is so important in scaling circular business models, and yeah, why are you excited to join, I guess?
Yeah, so we as we grew, I guess kind of last year, we had a bit of the kind of COVID survivor's guilt, because unlike Isabella, we had the entire country stuck at home clearing out their wardrobe, sending us clothes. So, but as we grew, we're kind of able to reflect on what we've built and where we're going. And actually, so we're now processing about 30,000 items a month and selling £250,000 worth of clothes each month, and growing rapidly. And we're starting to recognize, actually, we've kind of built, this is a grand statement, so please, I apologize to all the people doing brilliant things in the circular economy, but we're recognizing that actually we've got a really important relationship with the consumer at the point at which they don't want their clothes anymore. And we're making it as easy as possible for them to get their clothes out of their wardrobe and to us, a kind of central processing facility, and then built the tech to get them online and then resold and back into circulation. So that's really the infrastructure of the resale economy. So we're really excited for Textiles 2030 to be, we hope, a really important part of achieving the goals of preventing that, of kind of building that relationship with the consumer at the point at which they no longer want their clothes, and helping to get those, divert the clothes from landfill and get them back into circulation. And then the final thing is just that we're here to learn as well. So we know a lot about resale. We don't know very much about recycling and what to do with clothes at the end of life. And actually, again, if we've got that relationship with consumers, a big portion of their clothes can't be resold. And we also want to help them with that stream and understand and be a helpful contributor to that circularity piece as well.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Joe. I'm going to quickly jump over to Bianca now because the time is flying. But hi, Bianca. As I mentioned earlier, there is £30 billion of value sitting idle in our wardrobes due to clothing underutilization in the UK, and a short active life of clothing. So I think Wearing was really set up with that problem in mind. And can you tell us a bit more about the company? I'm not sure if too many people have heard, because I know you're super new.
Just launched. Yeah, no, absolutely. So guys, I'm Bianca, the founder of Wearing. We are a digital wardrobe and personal styling app. So essentially we allow you to see everything that you own in one place by taking pictures of all of your clothes or grabbing them automatically from your email receipts. You receive daily styling recommendations, but also curated sustainable product recommendations to essentially complement your existing wardrobe. So I love what we were talking about before. It seems like this whole panel is about streamlining that user experience to get people to just adopt, more sustainable behaviors as easily as you would kind of regular, shopping habits. But essentially, we kind of offer machine learning to tailor both the styling suggestions to enable you to sort of view your wardrobe entirely differently, receive outfit ideas that you kind of never thought of, but crucially kind of get that jolt of novelty, not too dissimilar from buying something new. So in terms of our backgrounds, I founded Wearing in June 2020. So it was super new. We only launched in Feb of this year. But essentially, it was kind of out of a profound desire to democratize the personal styling landscape. After I'd worked on the Stitch Fix IPO at Goldman when I was at their consumer division. And I guess, like, for me, the system was just, broken. That inability to kind of see what you own, impulse buying, never really getting it right, and then just the lack of inspiration in the styling process was really kind of that, aha moment where I thought, look, we have to take it digital. We have to harness the power of machine learning to enter a hyper personalized phase in our fashion experiences. So I guess our mission as a company is very similar to Isabella and Joe. So we kind of want to extend, the life cycle of millions of clothes just lying idle in our physical wardrobes. And again, help our wearers kind of reduce their carbon and water footprint by focusing on the two parts of the value chain that they basically control, which is, utilization and then purchasing. So we're basically trying to generate a new, cohort of outfit repeaters.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely. I mean, my other question for you is around kind of, obviously you're a tech startup, and we know that tech and innovation are kind of key enablers to circularity. And I know that the next generation of consumers are very tech savvy. I know you guys had like a pop-up for Earth Day last week. Do you think consumer engagement with new technologies like this, that they're not a physical product that they're buying, it's an experience and a service? Do you think engagement is increasing and that customers are kind of willing to try new things and new ways of consuming their clothing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think like people are really increasingly aware of the fact that efficiently reusing the things that you already have is just one of the easiest problems, vis-a-vis your carbon footprint. So I think in terms of what we've seen currently with wearers, there definitely is a paradigm shift, I guess, from, the more archaic kind of buy, shop, dispose model. And I think, a lot of them, we've seen about 75% of our user base is Gen Z and kind of, late millennials, kind of, 25 to 28. And all of them basically want to be able to see what they own, track their wares, and understand their fashion impact metrics, to move to more conscious mentality. So I think taking it digital is something that they truly understand. As long as it's really experiential, then I think we're really onto something. But in terms of extending that life cycle, we've also seen a lot of demand around understanding where and when to sell items, and kind of to Tom's point about how do we do that in an easy manner, because a lot of solutions have been around for ages, but it's all about streamlining that user experience. So I guess in that sense, treating the clothes that you have as financial assets is one of the trends that we've seen kind of pop up, as is kind of monetizing your wardrobe via, like rental solutions, but also, bigger interest in kind of looking at sizing technology, to kind of help yourself buy smarter, reduce your returns, and kind of get the most out of, the clothes that you already have and the ones that you buy, more importantly. So getting it right was a big piece of kind of what we've seen.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think that the fact that people are seeing the value in their clothes, literally the monetary value, and not just seeing it as disposable anymore, I think is a really exciting trend, I guess.
Yeah. And actually, sorry, just one thing to add. We've also seen there's a huge kind of psychological component in, overconsumption today, which is kind of boredom. It sounds stupid, but it's so true. And so, the rise of like digital clothes, styling games, is something that I think is going to shift our focus away from, more material things to a more sort of experiential way to kind of, play styling games, make use of your wardrobe, etc.
Yeah, definitely. I want to try some of those out, I think. I have one more question for you. We'll slot in before the end, which was, I guess we're here today and we're talking a lot about how businesses can interact with these new business models. We want them to incorporate them. And I think that people could be misled in thinking that because wearing encourages customers to make the most of what they already have, that could be seen as in conflict with what brands are trying to do, which is sell new products. But that's not always the case. There's definitely ways I think you could collaborate with brands, and kind of help customers to make better choices. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. So as I said before, we're really about those two parts of the value chain. It's not only the utilization data that we're really interested in, but it's also kind of making smarter purchasing choices. So I guess for us, collaboration is absolutely key to kind of, sorry, I'm getting chased by the sun, to improve circularity. So I guess two key things from our perspective. So the first one is kind of, we offer users customized shopping recommendations based on stuff like their in-app behaviors, what outfits they create, what their favorite pieces are, their style persona, their wardrobe gaps. And so this means that basically brands are able to show consumers, key pieces that they're missing, that are highly relevant, etc. And this basically just moves towards them enabling, consumers to buy smarter, i.e. for real needs, and then ultimately kind of invest in better quality stuff and help us move away from, the fast fashion model. And then secondly, on the data side, there's a lot of collaborative, insights that we could share there. So we basically create bespoke reports on kind of what we call the black box in the apparel market, which is really wardrobe utilization and composition data, right? Because all these brands have no idea, what an H&M denim skirt from 2019 is doing, where it's been used, etc. And so what we want to do is basically enable retailers to, better tailor their product range to consumer needs, really based on demand. And again, ultimately kind of reduce waste and, unsold stock, sorry.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Bianca. I have seen a couple of questions come through, but I'm aware that we've basically run out of time. So we will follow up for those who are asking. We'll follow up by email and ask anyone your burning questions so we can give you an answer. But I just want to wrap up and say thank you so much to our three panelists. It was very short and sweet, but I think some brilliant insights today in terms of circular business models. And thank you everyone who's joined us as well. I think this is the last session for today for the launch of Textiles 2030. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you soon.